Welcome to Often Pacing on Tab Radio Racing and Sport. Tim Walker will be joined by Matt Young and Oli Cownie as they delve into the form for today's Pinjarra harness meeting, as well as an early look at tomorrow's meeting at Gloucester Park. We are Often Pacing.
It's a very good morning, everybody. Welcome along to another edition of Often Pacing. Tim Walker with you. Great to have your company and great to be back on this Monday morning as we build up towards what is going to be a really spectacular couple of weeks here in the west of harness racing, and Friday night certainly whet the appetite for it. Coming up on today's show, Matt and Ollie, they're both standing by. They will both find us some winners for today and tomorrow, and Cameron Brown is going to join us, of course, in the studio. We'll make it somewhat of a regular segment with him every Monday morning, and he will give us the very latest in regards to what is happening in the world of harness racing here. And no doubt at the top of that list is the East Coasters that will arrive tonight on the charter plane for the Nullarbor. But let's not waste any time. Let's welcome in Matt and Ollie. Matt, to you firstly, a very good morning.
Good morning to you, Tim. Good morning, Ollie, everyone tuned in.
Great to have you on board today, and great to have Oli Cownie with us as well. Good morning to you, Ollie.
Good morning, Tim. Good to have you back.
Great to be chatting to you once again, gents. We'll rip into Friday night's meeting from Gloucester Park in just a couple of moments, but before we get the horses to follow, we do need to get the closing stages of the Governor's Cup. We had a really important race in this one on Friday night, and hopefully it was going to answer some questions. I think some questions were still left unanswered out of it, but here's the closing stages. Then I'll get both of your thoughts before we get the horses to follow and we tuck into today's Pinjarra meeting.
Bonds, 1, 2, 3, back on the inside, Tricky Mickey, Lavrajo still can't get out, 3 wide on the track, Swing Band's about to let go with a run, no run, Valentine's Brook or Mighty Ronaldo, jumping Jack Mack out wider, up to the turn, 28 for the next quarter, Tenzing Bromac just in front of Minstrel, no run Tricky Mickey, no run Lavrajo, out wider Ideal Agent, Swing Band deep from Valentine's Brook in the straight, Tenzing Bromac in front, Minstrel is grinding away, Lavrajo's out now, Tenzing Bromac in front, Minstrel inch by inch, wearing him down. Minstrel goes up. Gee, he's a winner. Minstrel races home into the Nullarbor. Fantastic performance.
He summed it up well there, did Richie Bell in the call. He's a winner at the moment, is Minstrel, and we know he's got a wonderful CV. He adds the Governor's Cup to it, and as Adam Hamilton reported yesterday, and also Denny Roberts indicated post-race on Friday night, he will be there for the Nullarbor in 11 days' time at Gloucester Park. So to you, firstly, Ollie, your flinch reaction to watching the Governor's Cup there on Friday night, and how you've come away from it in the couple of days since.
It was a pretty frantic tempo early in the race. There's obviously a 35 lead time, but once Tenzing Bromac did get the front and Lavrajo was happy to take a trail on Minstrel, they ran it pretty sedately. It was a 38 first quarter into a 29.9 second quarter, which is pretty slow going for the free-for-all horses. So I thought in the end it was a really good drive on Minstrel to control the race like that, but there was no real knock on a horse like Lavrajo, I thought, coming late in a 27.6. So they both looked primed and ready to go for the Nullarbor off those runs, and there was some probably hidden runs in behind like Mighty Ronaldo and Tricky Mickey, which were probably a bit unlucky.
Matt, to you, I guess the question out of that is very much with the Justin Prentice pacing slot. Of course, we know that they've got Never Ending in the race already with Ladbrokes or Entain, and we know that there's now a question on whether they go with Mighty Ronaldo or Tricky Mickey. Justin Prentice post-race, he was none the wiser. What way would you go out of that on Friday night?
Well, I think looking at it, I'm always been a fan of Mighty Ronaldo, so I'd say Mighty Ronaldo. I think he's the horse that could sit 3 fence and really give the field that is currently listed in the Nullarbor a fair shake. So he's the way I've always thought they would go. I think Tricky Mickey's a horse that continues to improve, but I just think there's just probably a few more strings to the bow of Mighty Ronaldo. Not sure if I can substantiate that with hard evidence. It's just more of a sight unseen. That's just my opinion of Mighty Ronaldo. But look, I thought the race was really good. was really impressed with Minstrel. Ollie said they've gone sedate, and they probably have after this horse worked forward, but he had a month between runs going into this, and he was 3 wide in that 35 lead time working forward to the breeze, and has then put them away. I thought his performance was outstanding, and I think he's going to bounce off that really well. So that was my takeaway from the race, was going forward. I thought anything that Minstrel did on Friday night, he would improve on. And it's scary to think that he's just continuing to hold his best form. He's been holding that since probably late November, in and out with runs, and I just thought his performance was brilliant again on Friday. Tenzing Bromac was good, Lavrajo good, Mighty Ronaldo never saw daylight, Tricky Mickey likewise. There's a few that sort of fall into that same category. Diego was bolting in behind them. Valentine's Brook blitzed them by, closed off really well, but never really got a crack at them. So I think that race on Friday night was just a real indication of what the free-for-all ranks are like here in WA at this stage, and it's incredibly even.
It certainly is, and Minstrel leaves the Golden Ticket Series with 2 of those 3 golden tickets. So for a fleeting moment, you thought that maybe that there would be another Bond runner that would grab a golden ticket in Tenzing Bromac, but he was denied by the stablemate, who, as the boys have quite rightly said, is in very good nick at the moment. All right, so I set you boys some homework yesterday, and we'll revisit this again in 7 days' time. So your top 3 seeds for the Nullarbor. Ollie, we'll fire it to you firstly before we rip into the horses to follow out of the rest of the GP meeting.
So the horse I had on top was Minstrel. He just keeps doing what he does every time. He's so tough, and whenever he does get to the breeze, it seems like he's pretty much always winning. There was one race where obviously Tricky Mickey got through late and just nabbed him on the line, but Tricky Mickey had probably had a much softer run, and Minstrel did all the work. So I thought he was the top seed, and then the next one I had there was Lavrajo. I think he's probably shown that he's got a really good turn of foot being sat up, so I don't think he's a one-dimensional horse that sort of has to lead or be on the speed. I think he can be driven with cover and can still finish really strong, and I thought the one that's probably snuck in there in third in the last couple of runs is Jumping Jack Mack. I thought he was fantastic at Bunbury to win there. He made a couple of runs and still was way too strong late, and then on Friday he just drew terribly and never got into it in probably a quicker last half. So I thought if he got the right run in the Nullarbor, he'd be really hard to beat.
Certainly the consensus among certainly a number of the drivers that I spoke to down there on Friday night as part of the Trots WAX coverage, it was tough going to make up ground. So Matt, Ollie's with Minstrel, Lavrajo, Jumping Jack Mack as his 3. Have you got an East Coast flavour in yours? Let's find out.
Yeah, look, I've got Minstrel on top for mine. I've been a big fan of the way this horse has gone about things, as I just mentioned before, since November. He just continues to break his own records, and I just think he's the one that's got the best form going into the race. Catch a Wave, look, I have to have Catch a Wave in. He's won the Chariots of Fire, the Miracle Mile. He's an outstanding horse, and I just think he'll come over here, and I think he'll do a really good job. And of the others, I too am in the corner of Jumping Jack Mack. I just think he is racing really well. And if there's a genuine tempo on, which the way the field is sort of coming up, I think he's going to be a real strong player. And the best thing about Jumping Jack Mack is on Friday night you can look at that run and say, oh, he was just a touch disappointing off the track. He was only beaten 8.5 metres. But in saying that, he can lead and he can do his work in his races, and his run on the Bunbury Cup just showed that he is a formidable force to be reckoned with in free-for-all company, and he's a horse that's seasoned to it as well, so he has to be respected. And with that run last year, it's a very interesting point, is there's not many horses that have been able to perform like he has off the speed and make the ground that he has. So Jumping Jack Mack has been able to break the clock on many occasions, and he's very versatile, and I think he's primed and ready to go. But it's very hard to go past Minstrel at this stage. Yeah,
it certainly is. So I went back and watched this as well, knowing that this was coming up, this segment on the show, and watching Friday night again, and your flinch reaction is, yes, to go the way that you boys have is with Minstrel. And I just went back and watched Bunbury, and I came back to Jumping Jack Mack. I think there's a number of different ways that he can win the Nullarbor. So for my 1 seed, I've got him there. I then went and watched Hot and Treacherous, and I thought that was the perfect lead-up run, and obviously he's in the tab touch slot, and how can you dispute the record of Jason Grimson and Cameron Hart in feature races? So I've got him there at 2, and I've got Minstrel there at 3. You can't poke holes in what he's doing and what he's done over the past 6 months or so. He's just been in such good form since the running of the WA Pacing Cup at the back end of 2023. So Ollie with Minstrel, Laverajo, Jumping Jack Mac. Matt with Minstrel, Catch a Wave and Jumping Jack Mac. I've gone Jumping Jack Mac, Hot and Treacherous, and Minstrel as the 3. All right, so that's the free-for-all ranks. Ollie, to you firstly, a couple of horses to follow out of Friday nights.
Out of race 6, there was a horse here, Princess Katie, which I think is actually going a lot better than her form suggests. The previous run, World Secret, she was able to run it down late, but they'd probably gone a little bit more genuine. And on Friday, it was a real dash home, and Princess Katie couldn't quite pick up World Secret. But Princess Katie's just a level 3 filly at the moment, so I think she's eligible for much easier, and when she gets there, she can lead and go well. And then in the stand start, I thought Jill Mac was fantastic, burned off the gate, burned off the stand, and she was really good, and then was probably a little bit unlucky in the end. She was really flashing late, and if she got a clearer crack at them earlier, then she would have gone real close because she was only beating 3 metres. And then in the 8th race, I thought there was a horse here, Galaxy Warrior, that after his fantastic closing splits to run down Soundwave at GP, I thought he's been a bit unlucky to cop some bad draws, and he's done some work, and I think he's probably best just driven real fit sprint. So it's understandable he's probably dropped out a bit off some harder runs.
Princess Katie, Jill Mac and Galaxy Warrior. To you, Matt, and I'm sure there was just an appreciation half hour for you after that performance of Jill Mac. Of course, you threw it into the numbers on Friday morning, and she did the job. Another placing in the race for Roses.
Yeah, absolutely. Ollie's taken my horse to follow. I thought Jill Mac was... Yeah, she was probably close to career best on Friday night, and I agree with Ollie. If she got out early, she probably goes very close to winning the race. She was really surging late, which, look, by no stretch was I going into that race thinking that she would win it. I thought she could run a place, but leaving it, I was like, gee, she would have gone really close in that. So, yeah, Jill Mac's definitely on my watch list going forward. I think there'll be a nice race for her at Pinjarra. With being a mare, there's going to be a let-up, and I think she's one that's just going to be primed and ready to go. I thought in the 3-year-old Colts and Geldings final, then he came along, was really good. I think he's been a big improver this preparation as a 3-year-old, as has Golden Load. They've been the two that have been really strong to watch, and I just think then you came along's going really well, so put him in for the horse to follow as well. And in race number 8, I was happy to be with 7-0 Trumps. I actually think is going quite well and is one worth following. Didn't get a great deal of luck in that race. There was a few unlucky horses in that event. Chasing behind Mr. Smarty. Nothing was getting near him, but unlucky to not be able to run a place, I should say. So, yeah, 7-0 Trumps, I think, is getting a bit more fitness, is going to run pretty strongly in the near future. So they're my 3, but, yeah, big star on Jill Mac because... yeah, she's definitely gone into my Christmas card list after Friday.
I thought she might have. So, Jill Mac across the board. That's a unanimous decision from the boys. Princess Katie and Galaxy Warrior for Ollie. Then you came along 7-0 Trumps for Matt. All right, let's turn our attention today to Pinjarra. You mentioned that there might be a race in time for Jill Mac at Pinjarra, but let's get some winners today. Ollie, we'll start with you, and your first best is coming up in race number 2.
In race 2, I thought it was a really interesting trot race. It's probably a real big watch on Uptown Lad and what he can do. But I thought Ellie Star, last start, he was from the stand and he made a mistake early and sort of really blew up any chance of competitively figuring the race. And then he battled on okay late, but 7 of his 8 career wins have come at Pinjarra. So a move back to Pinjarra is really suitable. And I think can just follow through early. And I thought there's probably a real question mark on Grand Majestic Bell, whose last few runs probably haven't been its best. And Uptown Lad obviously first up. So I thought at some value, 1 by 3, Ellie Star could figure somewhere there.
Go on to race 6.
In race 6, I thought Starlight Dream was fantastic last start. Super impressed by that run. was able to run down Sweet Vivian off a really, really slow tempo. They dashed home a 56.5, which in a midweek race you'd think would be enough for the leader to have won, but Starlight Dream was able to flash home and win with a bit in hand, I thought. Strikes me as probably a horse that really needs to be saved up for one run, so can't do too much work. But I thought In a Wink maybe is a similar type and might be left in front today, so I thought maybe she could be a little bit vulnerable at the price, so happy to play Starlight Dream at the bigger odds. And then in race 8, I thought there's a horse here that looks a really, really nice horse going forward, Cabochon. Really impressed by its last start win. There was a couple of handy types in the race, off the charts, Dark Eyes, Grevis, and was still able to sprint over the top and looked the winner from a long way out and was really impressive there.
All right, so that is Elish Star on the 1x3, Starlight Dream in race 6 and Cabochon for Ollie. Matt, we'll get to that race in just a moment, but your first best today comes up in race number 7.
Yeah, race number 7. Look, I found the meeting a little bit tricky today, and I think the 7th race, I was happy to play 2 horses in this race. I think Rock and Roll Sass has got the speed to get across and lead, and if she does, I think she'll probably win the race. But if there is a little bit of resistance from horses underneath, or she doesn't get out as quick as she can, I think you can back her and just save on Elta Queen, who I think will run a really good race. So I'm excited about Elta Queen's prospects as well. So happy to be pretty strong on Rock and Roll Sass and save on Elta Queen in that event. Race 8, just straight down the board. Cabochon, agree 100% with what was said there by Ollie. I just think Cabochon is the winner of this race, and I think he's going to be a really nice horse going forward to be able to keep following. So he's going to be probably short enough in the end, but at the same time, I think he's probably a multi-builder. And in the final race, race number 9, I was happy to be with Gears and a Wheel on an each-way basis. I thought he's been pretty good his last few without a great deal of luck, and this looks a suitable grade. He should be close enough to them, and he should run a really strong race. So those were the 3 for me today at Pinjarra.
All right, so that is Elish Star, Starlight Dream, Cabochon for Ollie. Matt going with Rock and Roll Sass in race 7 and saving on Elta Queen, Cabochon as well in race number 8. So that's unanimous, and Gears in a Wheel with the 3 in the last. Okay, from Pinjarra to Gloucester Park tomorrow night. 9 events on the program, a 5:20 start, or 5:19. That's been corrected to now. And Matt, we'll start with you here. So you're playing the early part of the meeting, and your first best comes up in race number 3.
Yeah, 3rd event on the card here, and we say it every week, but it's always tricky to identify without the prices. But I thought Jillaby Jake's been quite brave in his last few efforts. He's drawn bad draws. I thought his last effort he was good. He run the gate hard, which is going to be good for his experience going into this, that he's been blasted off the arm, so he'll probably be stronger up to the gate. Sometimes he can be a little bit unconscious in the early stages. He's a bit of a funny horse, this Jillaby Jake. Preserves himself a little bit for the next run, but look, I think he's got the gate speed to be able to lead this race, and from there he looks really hard to beat. 2,500 metres, he's just a good front runner. That just seems to be in his senior years where he does his best racing, and I think he can get the job done. So race 3 at number 1, Jillaby Jake for me there for Ryan Cummins. And in race number 4, I was with Beach Captain. I thought the win on Saturday at Narrogin was brilliant, and I initially was in the corner of Swagger Man, but look, he's probably going to need a little bit of luck from the draw, and I think Beach Captain can be driven pretty aggressively here over 2,500, and happy to be with Beach Captain in race 4, number 7.
Jillaby Jake in race 3 and Beach Captain in race 4, which is where your first best of tomorrow night comes up as well. Ollie, are you singing from the same hymn sheet?
No, I'm not. I thought He's a Cool Mac was fantastic last start. Really impressed by that run. I was in the corner of Nancy Kay, and I thought could maybe just get away with a bit on the front end. And He's a Cool Max out outside and was way too strong. Came home 57.6 and looked to do it really easily. So I think there is a slight query on him at the trip, but I thought if he could force his way to the top, then he'd be pretty hard to beat in this race. The start prior to that, he was pretty unlucky. He copped a flat tyre after sustaining a pretty long run and just going down late. So I think here, if he can push on to the top, he'd be really, really hard to beat. And then in race 9, there's a horse that's still a maiden here after 5 starts, Cindy Secret. This looks a pretty suitable race for me to think she can break through. She raced really well for Carl Symington, who drives her again here. Led the wide line last start ahead of Better Have Faith, who's now broken its maiden on Saturday night. The danger looks to be Lady Violetta, but I think first up from a spell, few months off, has always been a bit of an enigmatic horse, 1 from 29, so I thought was happy to take her on at probably a short price and back Cindy Secret to win.
All right, so that is for Ollie there in race number 9, as well as he's a cool Mac there in race number 4, Matt, with Jillaby Jake and Beach captain in race 3 and 4 respectively. Just one that's come through off the Retrovision text line as well, gents. Do you think that the Mickey Taker is up there with one of the more underrated horses in the state? Matt, your take on that?
Probably not. I think he's rated as well as he is. He is what he is.
Yep.
I'm not sure. I guess the question has to be thrown back on that listener as to how good do they think he is, I guess, because I think he's a sufficient metropolitan pacer that's going to win his fair share of races, and I guess it's just how high is their ceiling, because I think he could make it to free-for-all one day, but at this stage I think he's well placed in his class that he's in.
All right, we'll leave that there, gents. We do have to move on. Matt, we'll catch you on the Trots WA X page today. All of the interviews down there at Pinjarra, and then again tomorrow night at Gloucester Park.
Absolutely right. Cheers, Tim.
You have a good day there. And Ollie, all the very best. We'll catch up with you again next week here on Often Pacing.
Thanks very much, Tim.
There is Oli Cownie and also Matt Young. We'll take a short break. Cameron Brown with us on the other side of it.
Tool Must. Get the right tool from the start.
There is West Aussie as a golden sunset over Mullaloo Beach. With the biggest range of tools and equipment, Toolmart has been caring for their customers for over 40 years. And they're still about their customers. Toolmart, the West Aussie store for West Aussie people. With 12 great stores, there's one near you. Toolmart.com.au.
Toolmart. Get the right tool from the start.
Gloucester Park comes alive with the running of WA's richest pacing event, the Tab Touch Nullarbor. See the state's best pacers and quality interstate raiders battle it out for a piece of the $1.25 million in prize money. Bring all of the family. There'll be trackside entertainment all night, a wide range of food stalls, and a spectacular fireworks show after the last race. For a special night, book into one of Gloucester Park's many restaurants. The Tab Touch Nullarbor, Friday the 19th of April at Gloucester Park.
On Tab Radio, Racing and Sport, this is Often Pacing.
It is great to have your company on this Monday morning on Often Pacing, and it's great to have with us in the studio this morning, of course, the head of harness racing and special projects here at Racing WA in Cameron Brown. Good morning to you, Cameron.
Hey, Tim. How are you?
Going very, very well. Of course, it's a very busy time in harness racing at the moment, and we did see the release that was put out to the industry last week, and as part of that, the early starts was mentioned, and the early start last week, at least for the final Friday of daylight saving time, and the meeting got underway prior to 5 o'clock. How did this come about, and how you saw it on Friday night?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. It was an interesting one. Within the harness racing team here, we're always trying to evolve. We're trying new ideas, and in short, we'll do whatever we can to make the sport better. So on Friday it was for those who, of course, aren't from the eastern states. It was the last week of daylight savings. So often in the previous Friday nights in the daylight savings time, our last 3 races are really late into the Melbourne-Sydney audience, and we do know that about 70% of our wagering does come from over east. So on Friday night we played a bit of a trial and effectively swapped the last 3 for the first 3. And those 3 were scheduled to be on Sky Racing 2 from about 4:20 rather than our usual 5:30 time slot. It's funny how life works, Tim, that we had some abandonments out of the New South Wales rain situation. So the win for us, although I couldn't really test the trial, was that the first 3 were on Sky Racing 1 on Friday night and went really well.
In terms of fast-forwarding 6 months, is this something that you'd look to do early in October, knowing that that's when certainly the night thoroughbred racing starts again over on the East Coast once daylight saving goes back?
Yeah, absolutely. I think from October, Sky Racing will put these 3, if we can get them in, back to Sky 2.
Okay.
With the whole game plan to keep trying it. And look, if it comes a permanent fixture, that would be great one day. With the aim of the game to try and get all 3 earlier on Sky 1. And just for those, for the listeners out there, it is interesting from our early numbers that race 1 on Friday night, which was a country staked race, Tim, was actually the highest turnover race of the card, followed by race 3, then race 2, all which turned over more than the Governor's Cup. So that 7:30 prime time Friday night, Eastern State time, clearly pays off.
So is there merit then in doing it when daylight savings like we are facing? And I note that we are scheduled to go back to that 5:30, just prior to 5:30 this week. But is there merit in perhaps looking at that over the winter period? And going by some of the social media feedback to this industry release that was put out, that the earlier starts were welcomed here in the West.
Yeah, I think it's worth tinkering even in the non-daylight saving time if we can as well. It might not be 3 races, it might be 1 or 2. But look, it's not just all about turnover, it's the participants I'm a bit worried about, and those that are driving back to Bunbury, Capel, Aidan de Campo, Justin Prentice, all these type of people that are invariably in the last at 10:30 and have a 2 or 3 hour drive home, and then straight up to workhorses Saturday morning. It's a fair bit about participant welfare as well from my perspective.
I know it was Good Friday, so it looks a little bit different on Good Friday with the number of meetings that we do have, but in a couple of weeks' time there will be another Friday night footy game at Optus Stadium. Of course, Fremantle being involved in that one. Is that a night where you could look to start early as well, potentially, to ensure that participants can get out before the footy traffic?
Yeah, it's something we definitely need to be wary of, Tim. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be working with Mick Radley and the Gloucester Park team to just make sure that works as best as we can. It's maybe I shake my head. It's maybe this is why Fremantle Football Club are playing well and they get the Friday night slots. It's a new adventure for us a little bit to work around Friday night and Fremantle playing well.
Of course, Cameron Brown is with us in the studio this morning. Another part of that industry released last week, the numbers that were put out as well in regards to the fields and the makeup of the fields. So we went through the period of December, January, and there was a little bit of a letdown post all of our feature races. You think Oaks, Derby, Pacing Cup, and we had the 2-year-old races as well. But to see the steady improvement of the number, not only the number of races, but also the number of horses in each of the races, that must be pleasing to see.
Yeah, really pleased with the last 6 or 7 weeks since we made the change. We're really just trying to program the best as we can to the population. That's what it comes down to. And we need to be, I suppose, more agile, think on our feet a little bit better, and not program exactly the same every month, every year, and expect a different result. So we'll continue to tinker, and that starts again after our good efforts, a good performance the last 5 or 6 weeks. We'll keep shifting as much as we can to make Friday nights as a start more competitive and fill fields.
I know that we had a couple of scratchings out of the 2-year-old race on Friday night, but then again, looking towards this Friday night, the 2-year-olds light on the 2-year-old fillies race that is programmed. So obviously we've just had the Sales Classic, so a number of horses are up and going for that to race for the good prize money. But is that something part of that tinkering as well that you look at?
Yeah, the 2-year-olds it's definitely part of the agenda that we're thinking about at the moment. We're actually going to go out to some trainers in the next couple of months to work out what we do next year with the 2-year-old calendar. I wonder a little bit if we publish a guaranteed calendar earlier in the year and say, hey, you know what, this is when we're going to race, and nominate in these periods when we're going to put on the really good stake races and not for the others. We definitely want to fill fields and have one race of 10 rather than 2 of 5 or a race falling over. And we're definitely cognizant of these fields being light on. I know the Friday night full price race was the first one in a month, and we still got only a handful of runners. So it's something we definitely have to consider. Alongside, hey, we need to provide as many opportunities for 2-year-olds, but at the same time, we need to fill fields as well, Tim.
Is it all eyes towards the airport tonight and those 3 East Coasters in Hot and Treacherous Catch a Wave, and also we get to see Spirit of St. Louis back here as well?
It's so exciting, Tim, and great to have 3 horses of this calibre. And as well, it's Andy Gath, it's Luke McCarthy, and Jason Grimson. So 3 outstanding participants who will all be great for the race as well. And that's before the 3 class horses. So it's fingers crossed that there's no plane delays and they all arrive safe and sound tonight at about 9 o'clock Perth time.
I was asked by Diggers this morning on the Sports Daily, and we had that conversation off the back of speaking to Rob Tomlinson. Of course, we know Regency Foods have got Catch a Wave in their slot, and whether it was a better addition than last year. Magnificent Storm is the obvious one that's missing as our Pacing Cup winner, but on the whole, even with him out, are we looking at a better addition from the first year in your mind?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I'm not sure I've seen a race be so even.
Yep.
The whole field can win, Tim.
Yep.
That's the exciting part. And even like Minstrel on Friday night going absolutely huge again from the park position. The Bond slot, as well as the Steve Waters and New Zealand, Steve Waters and Gary Hall slot, they're still open, as well as the Jim Gamelli slot as well. So we've got 3 to come. Look, if I was a betting man, I'd say Minstrel's got to be a lock for the Bond slot.
Have you got some news then on the Justin Prentice slot?
No, unless you know.
Okay, because there was 4 earlier on this morning. So,
yeah, well, I think we'll get an announcement from Justin today as well.
Okay. And speaking of an announcement today, we'll have our final rankings before the Fremantle Cup. So it's easy to be forgotten in the excitement of the Nullarbor, the Retrovision Fremantle Cup, but those rankings later on today, there's going to be plenty of eyeballs on them.
Yeah, absolutely, and they'll be released around 3 p.m. This afternoon, Tim. The new ones, obviously, for this round of heats will be Catch a Wave and Catch a Wave and Hot and Treacherous, yes. So they'll come in. So there's now a heap of selection pressure around the 10, 11, 12. Horses like Swing Band on the edge, who is going really good. So there's going to be some great stories coming through to the Fremantle Cup, and not long to go.
Anything else before we do let you go? Because I know you're a busy man today.
No, all good. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks for coming down, and all the very best for the next week or so. We will keep in touch with Cameron Brown in the build-up to the Nullarbor and also the Retrovision Fremantle Cup. All right, I've gone a little bit over 10 o'clock this morning. Thanks for your company on Off and Pacing. We'll do it again next week. Enjoy everything that is to come in harness racing this week, starting off with Pinjarra today. Have a great day.
What's gambling really costing you? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelpline.org.au.